Inferno is a strange mix between a Contra-style run-and-gun and a gallery shooter in the vein of Wild Guns. You progress from left to right through linear stages, enemies come at you from all sides, and you dispatch them with rapid fire in one of the cardinal directions. Classic. However, at any point, you can hold down a button to fire into the background where even more enemies await. Your character becomes stationary, and the D-pad now instead handles control over the targeting reticle. Now, this might seem like a random genre blend, but it's actually pretty synergistic. For example, the reticle instantiates just above your character's head, so targets nearer to your character on the x-axis can be acquired much faster than ones on the opposite end of the screen. Conversely, when background enemies fire into the foreground, it acts as a form of area denial, forcing you to move somewhere else even when the situation might be less than ideal for it. This makes Neon Inferno both nicely overwhelming and even surprisingly strategic. Each enemy belongs to one of 3 factions, and the cool thing is that they don't like each other either. So there's a bit of a meta game in figuring out the best opportunities to let certain enemies live for a bit so they can draw background fire or help take out a mini-boss. The boss I'm currently showing will telegraph these flamethrower blasts that lock down parts of the screen. At the same time, they will also prep a precision laser. If you dodge the flamethrower first, you'll actually back yourself into a corner with very little room to dodge the laser. The idea is to stay in the flamethrower's range, bait the laser reticle to that location, wait for it to lock in, then dodge to the safe spot. It's that little bit of fuzziness that makes it so that even small differences in your positioning can change the outcome of a fight. While I'm on the subject of positioning, the game does have an iframe dodge, and the implementation is reasonable. It can be used to get out of corners or close in on enemies, but you are committed to the entire length of the roll, meaning you may very well leap into an active hitbox if you misjudge the distance. It makes the game a little more flexible without totally ruling out interesting checkmate situations or undermining micro-positioning, the latter still being the preferable way to avoid danger in most situations. Now, the game has 3 difficulty levels that gradually scale down your character's HP and boost the number of threats on screen as you ramp up. The latter is very noticeable, and many situations on easy mode are reduced to a single threat at a time rather than layering different attacks constantly. The game's length is super brisk, and the core conceit has enough of a learning curve that I really didn't mind starting on easy to get my bearings and slowly work my way up over time. It's incredibly refreshing to play an action game like this that's dense from minute 1 and only ramps up in intensity as it goes, all in well under an hour. Neon Inferno also features a ranking system based on clear time, which seems to take checkpoint reloads into account, damage taken, and civilians accidentally killed. These rankings are stage by stage, and individual stages can be replayed at your leisure. In story or arcade mode, rankings determine how much money you receive at the end of a stage, which can be used to buy a single-use item before moving on. I imagine the way this will play out from an optimal routing perspective is that you'll use specific items like the shield or rapid fire to make the most challenging sections more consistent, which you'll definitely need in arcade mode because it's just hard mode without any checkpoints or automatic health refills between stages. You can get a single HP back per shop visit, but that's still an insane marathon to run. What I want to stress here is that there's no true granular leaderboard style scoring based on time or kills. Even arcade mode is purely survival focused. There's just the individual rankings with their hard requirements. This ripples into the strategy of the game itself. For example, background enemies can simply fly away after a while. Your background fire is rapid enough that you can spray enemies down very quickly without much accuracy, but it's purely to make the playfield more manageable. Missed kills do not factor into your rank. I don't think this is necessarily bad, it just gives the game a slightly different flavor of target prioritization, but maybe there was more depth to be extracted here. Let me wrap up with a couple surface level points. I find the default button layout a little suboptimal. There's a button to toggle between 2 different aim speeds. You'll want to use the fast mode to acquire your target and the standard speed to stay on top of it accurately. By default, this is mapped to R3, which suggests that A, you're moving your thumb thumb from the face buttons to the right stick to aim, and B, you're clicking in the right stick while you're moving it to toggle between speeds. This is a little clunky, especially when you'll probably want to be using the D-pad to aim anyway, because the reticle only moves in 8 directions and just responds more instantaneously this way. Here's the layout I recommend, which maps the aim toggle to a shoulder button instead, which you can free up by moving dodge to the unused face button. This doesn't interfere with anything else, and all actions are pretty much possible simultaneously. I have to mention that there's still a massive oversight here, because you use items by pressing the aim toggle while holding the down direction. So it's extremely likely you'll pop one of your precious items accidentally while you were simply firing at somebody. This absolutely needs some kind of fix. Another thing I hope to see reconsidered is how the regular shot is handled. The game uses a Contra style scheme where you hold the button to fire and use the D-pad to move and turn freely in all directions. If you want to face one direction and move backward, you'll have to hold the aim lock button. This seems convoluted. The majority of the time you'll want to keep the enemy in view and back off only slightly rather than do frequent turnarounds, meaning most of your fire will be from this aim lock position. In Alien Soldier, take a shot, holding down the fire button will simply lock you in that direction inherently. If you want to change your aim, just let go of fire, reposition, then hold again. I find this the more intuitive and less error-prone system, and having it as an option here would also make it much easier to play on an arcade stick, for example. You should be able to do this via Steam input by mapping aim lock and fire to the same button, but I only received a key for PS4 and PS5. Speaking of, having tried both on a PS5 Pro, the native PS5 version is much more responsive. I lacked the equipment for a proper input lag test, but I was surprised how much poorer the game felt on the PS4 version. You can turn VSync off, which brings the two versions in line, but then you're obviously dealing with screen tearing. VRR on PS5 strangely does not seem to solve that. I do want to commend the number of options here to tweak the visual appearance. The way pixels were represented in the developer's previous game, Steel Assault, left much to be desired. But here you have integer scaling that fills most of a 4K display, properly aligned scanlines, and a gradual blur slider, and it presents the gorgeous art underneath in the best possible light. Thank you all so much for watching this review. I had to hit a deadline on it. I got the key ages ago, but didn't really have time to cover the game immediately. If you enjoyed this, please consider supporting me on Ko-fi. There you'll get loose, unstructured reviews of random games I've played every month. And yeah, I'll see you around.